Now, one of the biggest mysteries of the Trinity is how do you make a son without a mother, right? Because, they only focus on the baptism mentioned in Matthew 28 to even come up with that doctrine, right? But the doctrine has to do with Jesus telling the disciples to baptize people in the name of the Father, in the name of the Son, and in the name of the Holy Ghost, right? Yeah. Well, despite me up to 3 different names, depending on what's said about it all in the Bible. Now, Joshua is the name on which Jesus is based on. And the divine name would be the name of the Father, right? If you understand what I mean, right? For it created everything, right? That's why, through studying into the name Eliyahu and Moshe, I came up with the name Yahuwah, right? Based off of Sar and Sarah as well. And that the name is feminine, which is why Elijah ran from Jezebel. A woman. And the Bible talks of the seed of a woman who knew no man, right? That's the Virgin Mary, but now, since God made everything, right, including the angels, right, including the cherubim, right, and at the end we learn the cherubim, right, are two, and they're both guarding the way of the tree of life, right? Now, my theory is one is the tree of life itself, because it's trying to help us have more life and have it more abundantly, right? But the tree of the knowledge of good and evil wants us to die for our mistakes and us to have less of a life, right? According to Moses, before the flood, we lived 1,000 years at least, right? That's his theory, right? But then after the flood, it was shortened to 120 years, which is like around 12% of 1,000 years, right? Somewhere in there, right? I don't know. Now, yesterday, because I got cut off, I read up to Deuteronomy, right? To show you how Satan was, in fact, one of the cherubs, right, in Eden, and the Garden of God, right? And I started with Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. And God said, let us make man in our image, right? Which is the plurality of God, right? And that God made 2 trees in Eden. In chapter 2, verse 8 and 9, and told us not to eat the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And that we would die in the day we ate thereof, right? Then I showed you how in 3:22 it says, and the man is become as one of us to know good and evil, and now lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. Right? And then I went to Genesis 9 to make a point about seed, right? Even human beings produce a seed, right? And the seed of the woman, also according to what God said to Eve, would overcome the seed of the serpent, right? So that's in 9:9. And I, behold, I establish my covenant with you and with your seed after you, or your offspring, right? Now, God also told Adam and Eve at the end of chapter 1 and all the creatures in the fruit trees, right, to be fruitful and multiply, right? So, and then I took you to chapter 11, and we can go to verse 3 as well. Now, we'll redo this one though. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and lime had they for mortar. And they said, Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city in the tower which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they have one language.